Yo, what is going on, guys? It is your boy, Atypical Security Guard. I want to welcome you to Tuesday Night Live. This is where we get on here. We do a live stream. I talk about a series of topics. We go over some information that is pertinent to the security guard community, but also more than that, we give you guys an opportunity to chime in, to tap in, and to be a part of this stream. Listen, if you've ever been on my page, and you think that I've said something that you don't agree with or that I'm off base in some way or some form or fashion, now is your opportunity. Get on here and talk to me about it. Let me know how you feel, because listen, the important thing is that we're trying to create a community. Remember, our goal here is to help educate, motivate, train, and inform new and willing to learn security guards. And that means me as well, because I am willing to be educated. If you have something that you can contribute to the conversation, something that you can contribute to the chat, I would appreciate you bringing that to the table. Today, we're going to be talking about why you should not, okay, hear me out here, why you should not take the advice of sworn police officers who are in law enforcement while you're working security. Now, I know, listen, it's no shots fired, okay? This is a very respectful conversation, but there's some aspects of what we do in security that are so different from law enforcement, and I'm going to try and articulate that in a very respectful way today. Before we get into that, though, I want to talk about what happened yesterday. Yesterday, I had a lady pulled a very large knife, well, like this big, pulled a very large knife out on me, and it made me think about the importance of a couple of things. Number one, the importance of redundancy, right? The importance of redundancy. There's a conversation right now that's going on YouTube with a lot of the different, content creators who are working within the security industry. And the conversation is about kit. It's about what you're wearing on your uniform, how you're wearing your uniform, if you need to have certain items, if you should have certain items placed on your vest, if you should even have a vest. Now, that sounds like a kind of a foregone conclusion that you should have a vest on if you're working in a security capacity, but this is a conversation that's coming up. Should private security officers be wearing bulletproof vests, stab-proof vests? And this conversation, I expect it from politicians. I expect it from people who work within the legislature. But what I don't expect it from is from security guards. There's a lot of security guards out there that are saying, hey, you shouldn't be wearing a vest. You shouldn't be wearing any sort of kit. And so yesterday, in dealing with this lady, what had happened was on Saturday, I had an issue where I had to pepper spray someone. Now, I do everything that I can in my power to never have to go hands-on. I am probably, and I think that most of you guys, if you've been following this channel, you know this to be true. I am the most pacifist person out there. I do everything that I can to never have to go hands-on. I do a lot of de-escalating. I do a lot of rapport building. I do a lot of, community policing in terms of creating relationships with not just the people that are customers or clients of the areas that we service, but of the people that are generally the problem type people. I feel like if you create that rapport, you create that relationship with those people well before you have a negative interaction, it's so much easier to de-escalate things. But one of the things that we're having a problem with at one of the main locations where I work is that a lot of the local stores are being shut down. So if you're following the news across the nation, there's no secret that in Portland, we have lost multiple Walmarts. We have lost now multiple Target locations, right? In all of these places, the Walmarts, the Targets, any of the big box type retailers, these places are hubs for your homeless community. Your homeless community, unfortunately, a lot of them mentally ill, a lot of them addicted to drugs. So if you're working security at a Walgreens or, a Kroger, or a Best Buy, any of these big type locations, it's a kind of a hub for homeless people to congregate. And so as some of these stores are being shut down, mostly due to theft, mostly due to shoplifting, mostly due to the fact that they create a very unsafe environment for the people that are trying to shop and do business there, then as those places close down, it just pushes that population into the remaining stores and remaining locations. And so where I work, specifically downtown off of a very uh, highly heavily populated area of homeless people, we're seeing an influx of people that I've never seen before, right? So if you have 100 to 200 people that primarily were located in this target area that might be 3 miles away from where I'm working, now that that target has been shut down, those 200 people are now pushed down to where I'm at. So I say all that to say that my attitude of community policing, my attitude of creating rapport, it's not there with people that I'm seeing for the first time. And that's kind of what I dealt with over the past weekend. So we had some new people in the area, and we had some different situations that we had to deal with. And I ended up having to pepper spray someone. So I pepper sprayed this guy on Saturday. And that might have been like the second or third time that I'd used my pepper spray in like, 8 months or something like that. But at the end of the day, I had gone through the entire can. So I'm like, shit, I got to get a new pepper spray. So I ordered one on Amazon, get the Saber Red pepper gel. It's my favorite brand. It's my strengths, what I like. And I was able to get it the next day. So it came on Sunday, and then I go back to work on Monday, which was yesterday, right? So I get in, and first thing when I get there, I tell my partner, I'm like, yo, I got to go and get my pepper spray. Like, I pepper sprayed this guy on Saturday. I went all the way through the entire canister, and I need to go get my new can and put it on my belt. So I go upstairs, and it was in my backpack, take it out, fresh package, shake it up, put it on, everything's great. And so then I have this issue with this lady that comes into the store, and long story short, she brandishes this knife, right? She pulls out the knife, takes it out of the sheath, and she's like, "I'm gonna fucking kill you," right? So immediately I pop my pepper spray and I go to spray it, and the way that I had it turned, and there's like a little, like a safety tab or something on it. I've never seen this on a Saber Red. There was like a little safety tab that was keeping the plunger from being depressed. So as I go to present the pepper spray and I push down, like nothing happens. So I take a step back and I push it again as she's starting to move forward. And again, nothing happens. I look at it, I'm like, what the fuck? And so then I see the tab, I pull it out, shake it up, and I'm able to get, two decent bursts. That situation, two things. Number one, always check your equipment, right? Like, I literally have a equipment checklist video, but based on circumstances, like I knew that I needed to get that pepper spray put on my belt, but I didn't look to see if there was any sort of, safety mechanism or anything in there to keep me from being able to depress the plunger, because I've never had that happen. I've never had that be a part of the pepper spray ever. But that just goes to show you that, you are in a situation where you don't have time to be dealing with something not working. Like, you should take the time to check it and make sure. And I didn't do that. But here's the point of what I'm talking about. This is why it is so important to have multiple options on your kit, because as this person received the first burst of pepper spray, she takes off with a knife. And so she's got the knife raised over her head, and she's going towards a self-checkout area. And all of the customers, people in Portland, have this real weird sense of like just looking at everything when something happens. And they're all just kind of like, this lady coming at me with a knife. And so I pull my taser and I start giving her commands. Hey, stop, drop the knife, stop, drop the knife. And it just really made me think about how important it is to have redundancy, to have other options on your kit. I get it. I know that the look of officers who are wearing a vest, who are carrying a firearm, who have pepper spray, who have a baton, who have a taser, I get that. In and of itself, in a bubble, considering the fact that you're working at a grocery store or some sort of bar or nightclub or whatever the situation is, right? The fact that you're working in what seems to be a mundane location, all of that seems a little excessive. But we're not wearing it to be excessive. We're wearing it so that we can have multiple options for multiple situations. A lot of times when like vanilla customers come in, these are just, normal people, normal shoppers, and they're like, "Why do you have so much equipment on it?" And I'll tell them, "It's because I'm a customer service agent, and these are all customer service tools. I have to use the proper tool to address the proper issue that the customer brings to me, whether that's good or bad, right? Like I have a pen right here and I have a phone. I can write you a direction as to where you can find this one product. I can, call the manager if you need to speak to the manager, or I can call the front desk if you need something from there. I also can deal with a lot of very difficult, dangerous situations based on whichever one presents itself with all of these other tools that I have. So I want to share with you guys that that's like, reason number 750,000 as to why we need to have enough equipment. Because in that same situation, short of not having pepper spray, and then when the pepper spray is not working, not being able to switch to a taser and be able to create that distance, right? And give those commands, I would have had to gone to something else. What if all I have is, hands on, and then I have to get closer to this knife? What if all I have is a baton and now I'm in a situation where I'm brutally, dealing with this lady who clearly is having a psychotic episode in a mental episode. I'm dealing with her in a more brutal fashion. Or what if, God forbid, the only thing that I have is a firearm? Because a lot of officers, a lot of security guards in that situation, when she presents a 6-inch knife and she raises it over her head and is brandishing that knife and telling me and everyone else that she is going to fucking kill me, a lot of officers would have taken that opportunity to present their firearm. So this is why it is so important to have multiple options. And aside from that, also to be able to practice restraint. And I kept thinking about how important it is for us as security guards to practice empathy. Like, we can't be in a situation where we're seeing people always as the enemy or always as the threat. That sounds a little crazy because clearly this lady was a threat. However, being able to like have that nuance and go, look, I need to handle this situation. I need to deal with this situation. I need to get it under control in the quickest way possible, the safest way possible. But I also need to do as little harm to this person as possible. Right. So I would like to see more of us across the board in security and in law enforcement. I would like to see more of us just practicing more empathy, like going to work and having in our heart and having in our mind that we're going to deal with the situation. We're not going to let the situation spin out of control. We're not going to let this person or this subject, set the narrative or control the space. But also, what we're not going to do is we're not going to be vindictive. We're not going to try and exact some sort of revenge. We're going to handle the situation at the lowest level possible, presentation of force, while also respecting that this person, albeit crazy, high, whatever, is still a person. Let me drop in a comment right now. What we got here? Who we got here? Westwell, useful perspective. Yes, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. As always, thanks for commenting. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being a part of this. So let's go ahead. That was my situation from yesterday. It was crazy. Also, I want to say this, guys. Look, I am very critical of the Portland Police Department. I'm very critical of kind of how they have handled things over the past couple of years here in Portland. I'm very critical of our leadership here in Portland. We called 911 and the police showed up to our location within 5 minutes. And so generally, whenever we have a situation with a homeless person, a drug addict, anything, any sort of negative interaction where we have to contact the police, historically, when they respond, it's always like, some reason as to why they can't do anything, or, you know, they just kind of treat people with kid gloves. These cops rolled up and we had the female sitting outside on the steps, and we're washing out our eyes, we're flushing out our eyes, again, being empathetic and sympathetic to the situation, and rendering aid, even though she's the perpetrator. And the cops rolled right up and they were like, "Hey, is that the lady right there?" I'm like, "Yeah." And they go, "Did she pull the knife on you? Did she legitimately like present the knife and threaten you?" And I said, "Yeah." And they go, "Get up right now, hands behind your back." They slapped the cuffs on her and they're like, "You're under arrest." I was just like, "Whoa!" Like I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that since I've been here. I mean, in almost 4 years, I have not seen that level of like, get there fast, no bullshit. Where are they at? Right there. You get up, hands behind your back. Let's go. Like, and I told the cops, I was like, "Dude, I am so appreciative of you guys. Like, that's a hell of a difference from what we've seen." So I don't know where that came from. I don't know if there's a difference in how they're approaching things. I don't know if there's like a quote unquote new sheriff in town, but that was something that I was extremely grateful for and extremely happy to see. And when I said that to the cop, I said, "Hey," I said, "Dude, man, like I appreciate you guys getting here so fast, and I appreciate the way that you responded to that." And he goes, "We're not going to allow that to happen to you. We're not going to allow it to happen to you. It's not happening." He was like, "We'll be here for that. We'll get here." And I was like, "Dude, thank you." Ray French. Okay, I do get your point with using less than lethal things, but what happens if that option don't work? Will you have enough time to pull your firearm? So, great question. I would answer that with space offers you time, right? Too often, oh fuck. I wish I had my little min. We'll just use these snap caps, right? So let's take these snap caps for an example. Too often what I see working in security, this is with people that I work with and then people that I observe when I'm at a store and I'm not working, right? Is that the subject is doing something wrong. Okay, let's go that way. Okay, and then security comes in. This is the security guard here. The security guard rushes right in and gets like this and is like, "Get the fuck out of the store. You've been trespassed. You're not supposed to be here, blah, 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 blah." And then the guy will start to leave and the security's like following him like that, right? And then shit happens. Just keep some distance. And I know it's easier said than done. Guys, look, I live it. I don't come on here and make videos and fucking, talk about this shit because I did it like 10 years ago. I fucking work 16 hours a day when I'm at work. I work a lot. I work a lot. The fact that I'm able to make these videos and come on here and do this shit and have these conversations with you, that's crazy in and of itself. But I work in the industry. I'm doing this shit. I'm out here in these streets, as the kids say. Keep distance, right? Yeah, it's not going to always work. And that's why you need to have that distance, because having that distance gives you more opportunity in case something goes wrong. And for whatever reason, something always goes wrong. It always goes wrong. The pepper spray, it works when I fucking sit on it in my car and I'm not trying to pepper spray anybody, right? Like my taser light will end up being on for some reason, even though it's in a fucking Kydex holster, right? Like something always goes wrong when you need it. It always goes wrong when you need it. So just imagine that and know that that's going to happen. Ray French says that 21-foot rule, absolutely. Twice COVID distance, right? Let's see here. We got Westwell Police Bureau was probably looking for other incidents. I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, we have a situation here where we have a police force that's willing. We just have a district attorney that is not willing to prosecute and not willing to help the police force. So, we've had police officers, rightfully so, that have just been so disheartened and disappointed and frustrated by the district attorney here. I get it. But, maybe some of these new officers are like, "Yo, we don't care. We're going to do our job. And if they don't want to do their job, that's on them." That's what I've always said. If the district attorney doesn't want to do his job, fuck him. Let him not do his job and let people deal with that. But the cops, they have to respond. They have to do their job. And that also filters down to us as security. We cannot look at situations and say, "Look, the police aren't going to show up and the district attorney's not going to prosecute and, my company's not going to." Look, I get it. Guys, I get it. We had this whole talk on another live stream this week. It is what it is. It is what it is. The dynamics of law enforcement, the dynamics of activist district attorneys, the dynamics of people either being far left or far right and how that applies to their politics, none of that shit is going to change. Corporate is going to do what they're going to do. Companies are going to cut hours. Companies are going to gain contracts and lose contracts. It don't matter. Okay. So you can either stand in the gap, you can be that guy that I've chosen to be, stand in that gap and protect people for the 8 to 16 hours that you're on shift. Do your absolute best to make sure that no one gets robbed, gets killed, gets harmed. You be that fucking sheepdog for the moment in time that you're there. And then when you go home, you can't control anything else. Okay. And that has to be just like enough. That has to be good enough for you. Like when I die, I want God to say, good fucking job, man. Good job. You know what I mean? You did your part. I didn't ask you about the district attorney. I asked you to go out there and do your part. You know what I mean? So that's my thought on that. Okay. Let's see here. Okay, so here we go. Here's the topic. Okay. 5 reasons to avoid the advice of sworn police officers. Are you ready? I'm joking. Guys, look, before we get into this, no shade. All right. I partly titled it this to get your attention because I want you to listen to this, but it is also true. Okay. And I can very easily, and I will make another video, a follow-up video that is 5 reasons to take the advice of sworn police officers. But we're going to start here today. Okay. Number 5, different priorities and responsibilities. Okay. Law enforcement has a job of enforcement. Enforcement of what? Laws, policy. Okay. Security is strictly working in a protective and prevention environment. We don't have the authority to enforce laws. We don't have the authority to enforce what's the word? Ordinances, right? Our job is strictly protection and prevention. Observe and report. Law enforcement officers literally have the backing of the state behind them. They are there to enforce laws. How this plays into taking advice is that oftentimes what I have seen is when law enforcement officers either retire or separate from the force and then they get into security, there is a disconnect of the fact that what they're doing currently is not law enforcement. We are not law enforcement. We're not. We don't have the authority of law enforcement. We don't have the responsibility of law enforcement. We don't have the need to do any aspect of policing because that's not what we're there for. We are a buffer. That's it. Okay? And so a lot of times when you're taking advice, people tend to give advice from their perspective, right? Like I come on here, I give you guys my advice from my perspective as a security guard, right? What I see in a store, what I see on a post, what I experience on a daily basis, it might be great advice in terms of a police officer listening to what I have to say, but it's not applicable in terms of what they do for their job because their role is so different than what I do. Okay, let's go to number 4. And again, all of this is said in respect. There's no shots here. Okay. Number 4, the legal boundaries in jurisdiction. Okay. Police have legal authority and backing from the state versus a security guard who is strictly a common everyday citizen who has been authorized to carry a firearm or authorized to watch a certain area of property, enforce property boundaries, to have the shopkeeper's rights of the client that they're working for. That is a huge difference than having the authority to actually enforce jurisdictional laws. Let's see what we got here. We got some comments coming in. I want to make sure that we're keeping up with the comments. Let me take this off. Let me go to the comments here. I want to make sure you guys are properly represented here. What we got? And we're on 4. Boudin got voted out of San Francisco, and rightfully so. His replacement at least files cases. Yes. San Francisco, Portland, wings on the same bird. Let's see, we got Ray French over here. Need to hope said cops know the laws too. Okay, yep. Let's see here. We've got Westwall. Think of it like the difference between a nurse and a doctor. Dude, that is so fucking awesome. Yes. Think of it like the difference between a nurse and a doctor dealing with similar problems, but have different skills, levels, and authority. Motherfucker. Yes. I actually thought about that the other day. I actually thought about that. Like it's literally like a nurse and a doctor. A nurse and a doctor, the authority. That nurse sees situations. The nurse is like, hey, look, you know what? You got a broken arm. Now the nurse is not going to tell you that. The nurse is going to look and go, that's a broken arm right there. But the nurse doesn't have the authority to tell that patient, hey, your arm is broken. This is what we're going to do. She's going to go and report to the doctor. Hey, doctor, I see this, blah, 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 hairline fracture, yada, yada, yada. Doctor's going to come in. He's going to look at the x-ray. He's going to confirm it. He's going to put his hands on there. He's going to do all this other shit. And then he's going to make the call. That is a great, 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 great analogy. I wish I could pin this comment. I could put a star on it. Let's see here. Let's see what happens if I put that star on there. I don't know what that does. I just put a star by it, but that was great. Good shit. Good shit. All right. So let's go back to my banners here. Hang on. I'm working on this new system here, guys. So let me take that off. Oh, now I can't take it off because I have a star on it. Okay, wait, there we go. All right. So where were we? We're number 4. Number 4, legal boundaries and jurisdiction. Police have the legal authority, backing from the state. Security guards do not have that. Everything from 5 to 1 is going to be the same thing, guys. It's going to be the difference in the authority, right? A great example. I went to Utah in 2021 and I took sheepdog response and it was their protector 1 class. Okay. So you do like 5 hours of jiu-jitsu and then you do 3 hours of shooting on the range. It's for a whole week. So we get on the range and one of the instructors was a Green Beret that had 8 combat tours in Iraq and Afghanistan. And he was a phenomenal instructor. And so most of the people that were in the class were like me. They were like middle-aged, dads, guys who were into the tactical shit and just want to have that experience. And, most of us are, we're there for EDC to be better at EDC, to be better shooters, but we're all just we're super beginners for the most part, especially compared to him. So we're on the line. And he's going over presentation and getting on the shot. And he kept saying get on the shot, get into it. And what he was wanting was for us to pull the firearm, present the firearm, and then lean into the shot, get forward. He's like, most of you guys are leaning back and you're anticipating and you're back here. I need you guys forward. I need you on the shot. And he kept pushing that to the point that he got so frustrated that he took this guy's gun. He's like, give me your fucking gun. He goes, this is what you do in this situation. He loads it, racks it. And he's like, shot. And he's walking forward towards the target. And then he gets up to the target and he kicks the stand over and he leans down and he's like, ah, he takes 3 shots into the target, right? He's like, that's how you fucking get on the shot. And I'm thinking to myself, point made. Okay, point made. However, we are not in Afghanistan and we are not in Iraq. There's a difference between being in wartime and getting on the shot in that mode and in that fashion. And I understand the thought behind what he was saying. And clearly I'm in no place to disparage what this guy was saying. I get what he was saying. However, think about that in terms of you being in security and you being justified to take that shot, you being justified to protect yourself, but how that is going to play out when that is looped on the news, right? When that's the video that's shown of the altercation. Think about that when, you're in a situation at a gas station, in an EDC situation, and you're doing that as you are legally defending yourself. Is that going to have an impact on how it's seen? Let's see what we got here. I like the comments coming through. Ray French says, Tim was instructor, right? Okay, I don't know what that is. Let's see here. I watch his videos. Okay, maybe there's like some conversation going on in the bottom. I'm not seeing it, but anyway, let's move on to the next, which is going to be number 3. Number 3, very, very, very important. Use of force liability. The use of force guidelines are extremely different for law enforcement and security, right? The great example of this is when I went to a class at a place called Threat Dynamics. Okay. Threat Dynamics is a firearms range. They do a lot of training, a lot of tactical training. And I was doing a use of force training class there, and they were doing the 21-foot rule assessment, I think is what it was called. And so you stand in this 360-degree arena. There's screens on every side of you, and they bring up a scenario. So the guy like comes out and he's got his shirt off and he's like, "Hey, motherfucker." He's got a knife in his hand like this. He's like, "Hey, motherfucker, I'm gonna fucking kill you." Blah, blah, blah. Very similar to yesterday. And at some point in time, he is going to charge at you. And so the instructor is like, "Hey, when you feel that it's time for you to present your firearm, I want you to present and take the shot if there's ever a situation where you need to." So the guy's like, "Hey, motherfucker, blah, 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 blah." He's standing 21 feet away. And at some point, he like goes like this, and then he takes off running towards you, right? So clearly, I draw, and then I present and I shoot, and then the drill stops. And then they take the screen and they pull it up. And so where normally the bad guy is here and you're on this side, they turn it sideways. So then it shows you like the bad guy was this far away, and then he was right there before you drew and presented and took the shot. So the instructor, who again was former military, he was like, "Hey, like when the guy had his knife out and was yelling and telling you he was going to kill you, like why didn't you go ahead and unlock your holster and come to here?" He's like, "You should have had it here. And the second that he starts moving forward, you should have presented and you should have taken your shot." Right. And I'm like, in security, I can't do that. Like, I can't be in a situation where I walk around the corner at a store and the guy has a knife out, and then I immediately draw my firearm to Sewell, you know what I mean, or low ready. Like, I can't do that. And he fucking lost his mind. He's like, "What do you mean you can't do that? What the fuck are you talking about?" I'm like, "I can't do that." Like, we have to be responsive. We have to be reactive. Like, I can't preparatorily stage my firearm in a situation like that. Like, just breaking leather and pulling that firearm in my situation where I'm at in this city, that would lead to a whole host of issues. Like, we can't do that. And it blew his mind. It blew his mind. So like, from his standpoint being in law enforcement, his standpoint being in the military, he was like, "That's ridiculous. You're training yourself to be a victim." I agree. But that's a great example of the difference between what they can do in their area of being in law enforcement versus what we can do in security. That's a great example of the two worlds apart of difference. So a lot of times, if you're taking advice from someone who's working in law enforcement, or you're taking advice from someone who is in the military or has spent time in the military, has combat tours, their rules of engagement of what they can do, something as simple as preparatorily staging that firearm, that is completely 180 degrees different from you working in private security. Now, are there some aspects of private security where you can be working where you can stage that firearm? I'm sure there are. I'm sure there's anecdotal evidence of people that can go, "Nope, where I work, it's in our contract. We can fucking pull our gun out and clear buildings and all that stuff." Most often, that is not the situation. Let's see what we got here. Tim Kennedy was instructor for Sheepdog Response. Was what I was telling you to say. Oh yeah. When I took the class, Tim was not there. I was so disappointed. Something had come up, and clearly, if you guys follow Tim Kennedy, he is so involved in, fucking extractions and rescues, and he's on the news, and he's a very busy man. I respect that. He was not there, but the instructors that taught the class were phenomenal. And when I tell that story about, the guy with the firearm, it was no aspersion against that guy. He was fucking awesome. It was just very clear to me the difference in what his experience was versus like the experience for security guards or for EDC. So let's go to number 2. Let's see what I got here. Number 2 is training and expertise. Police have criminal law, investigation techniques, etc., it might not be relevant to the post you serve, right? So having more understanding of greater the greater complexities of criminal justice is more than likely not applicable in terms of you watching a door or you walking a site at night and making sure that people aren't trespassing, sleeping on property, loitering, all of the things that we deal with. Our role is so limited. And even to the degree that like people are working in armed security and they're doing more difficult tasks, they're working in executive protection, something like that, it's still very, very, very different in terms of what we need to know and what we need to be able to accomplish. Now, I'm a huge proponent of people being trained. I'm a huge proponent of people having an understanding way broader than what they're doing. I think that the attitude that if you train to run 6 miles and all you have to do is run one, you're going to be that much more prepared when you have to run that 1 mile. I live by that, and I think that's great. However, a lot of times the information, the knowledge, and the skills that police officers have far exceed that of security. When they're working security, sometimes that gets them into trouble because they can't turn it off. It's very hard to turn that off. So just be aware and conscious of the fact that a lot of times the information, the knowledge, the experience that they have, it far exceeds the complexities of what we're doing. And sometimes it's not applicable. Okay. Number one is going to be the fact that we are a client-centered situation. Hang on, somebody's calling me here. Hang that up there. We are client-centered. We are not policy. Sorry, somebody just threw me off here. All right, let's start this over. Number one, client-centered approach, which is policy and contract versus enforcement of state law and local ordinance. The policy and the contract are going to dictate what it is that we do. So again, go back to the situation of the firearm being presented. Hang on, let me do this. Stand by. Somebody's trying to get a hold of me. Hang on. The difference between the policy of what it is they're asking us to do and the enforcement of actual state law and local ordinance. It's completely different. So again, going back to that firearm situation, not being able to preparatorily stage that firearm and get it into the fight well before that person charges at you with the knife, that is something that is dictated by your policy, something that is dictated by the post orders, something that is dictated by the contract, and that is completely different than enforcement of the law itself. So those are going to be the 5 things that I was talking about. Again, I say all of this with extreme respect. There is no shots, there is no shade, and I can easily make this same exact video based on the 5 things that you can gain from taking experience and advice from law enforcement officers. I will definitely do that moving down in the future, but this is something that I wanted to talk about, something that I wanted to bring to the table, and I just couldn't find a way to articulate it. I had to think about it. I had to kind of go through it in my head and figure out the best way to talk about this. And guys, listen, I think that we did it. We had a good conversation. As always, I want to thank you guys for joining me. Now, coming up, I'm going to be having a conversation with Michael Bach. This will be a separate stream that'll start probably in about 30, 45 minutes. This is a security guard that works for Echelon, was recently featured in the New York Times. Great, amazing article. And I look forward to having him share his experience of working downtown in the Old Town district. I mean, these guys are running basically a privatized police force, and what they're doing is working with some of the worst areas of Portland. They've been extremely influential in terms of creating a lot of change, and I'm looking forward to him sharing his experience with you guys. So as always, thank you guys for being here, and hopefully you'll tune in for the next conversation. Give me about 30 minutes, 45 minutes. I'm gonna get it popping. Okay, y'all be great.